What if the most powerful force shaping your life isn't a government, a corporation, or even technology, but a quiet lever pulled behind closed doors, a lever you never voted on, never see, yet it determines your rent, your salary, your debt, your future? Most people think money is a neutral tool, something earned, saved, or spent. But what if money itself is a mechanism of control, redesigned over centuries to concentrate power in fewer and fewer hands? Tonight we dive into the story rarely told, how manipulating the money supply became the ultimate global control tool. A system so embedded in our lives that we don't even notice it anymore. But to understand how we got here, we have to go back to a time when money wasn't numbers on a screen, but something far more tangible. Section 1. Origins. When money followed rules, there was a time when money had limits. Gold, silver, metal coins, they couldn't be printed endlessly. Kings and governments were bound by the resources they actually controlled. That limitation created stability, and also frustration. Wars were expensive, empires needed funding, and rulers hated the idea that their ambitions were capped by how much gold sat in their vaults. Then came a shift, subtle at first, revolutionary in hindsight. Enter the goldsmiths of 17th century England. They discovered a trick. People deposited gold for safekeeping, and instead of withdrawing the gold, they used the receipts, early paper notes, for transactions. Goldsmiths realized something. No one was asking for all their gold back at once, so they began issuing more paper receipts than the gold they had. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking, the first major manipulation of the money supply, a quiet secret that allowed early bankers to conjure purchasing power out of thin air. For the first time, money became elastic, able to expand beyond what actually existed. It worked brilliantly until it didn't. Runs on banks started, panics erupted, trust collapsed, but the idea survived. Because for rulers, for elites, for governments, this was too powerful to abandon. Section 2. The rise. When banking moved into the shadows by the early 1900s, countries were struggling with unstable banking systems, booms and busts triggered by uncontrolled note issuance. In the United States, after the panic of 1907 nearly brought the economy to its knees, a new idea emerged. What if a central institution controlled the money supply? Not the people, not the market. An independent board above politics, above transparency. Entered the Federal Reserve in 1913. It was sold as a stabilizer, a guardian against crises, but hidden inside its design was a new power, the ability to expand or contract the supply of money at will, through interest rates, through bond purchases, through credit creation. The shift was seismic. Money was no longer anchored to gold in day-to-day use. It was anchored to policy decisions, decisions invisible to the average citizen. Then came the real turning point. Section 3. The breaking point. When money detached from reality after World War II, the Bretton Woods system tied the world's currencies to the US dollar, which was itself tied to gold. Nations trusted the dollar because it was as good as gold, but by the 1960s, the US had printed more dollars than it had gold to back them. Wars, welfare programs, global obligations, everything demanded more money. Foreign nations started asking to exchange their dollars for actual gold. Gold reserves plummeted. The system cracked. And on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon made a decision that would reshape global finance. He cut the dollar's final tie to gold. No more conversion, no more limitation. Money became pure abstraction. What used to be tied to a scarce metal was now tied to trust, and trust could be manipulated. That day, the global financial system entered a new era, the era of unlimited money creation. Now, the money supply wasn't just elastic, it was infinite. Section 4. The fallout, the age of invisible control. What happens when governments and central banks can create money without limit? 3 things. 1. Debt becomes the primary product. When money can be created from nothing, lending skyrockets. Governments borrow endlessly. Consumers borrow to survive. Corporations borrow to expand. Today, global debt exceeds $315 trillion, more than 3x the size of the entire world economy. Not a flaw, feature. When inflation becomes silent taxation, every new dollar printed makes existing dollars worth slightly less. But unlike taxes, inflation doesn't require votes or approval. Prices rise, savings shrink, wealth transfers quietly from the public to the issuers of new money. 3. Crises become opportunities. Every recession, every crash, every emergency is met with the same solution: print more money, cut interest rates, expand credit. The cure becomes the addiction becomes the system, and the system becomes a tool of control, economic, political, and psychological. Section 5. Failed fixes. When solutions became new problems, attempts to fix the system only made it stronger. 1980s deregulation ushered in an era of easy credit. 1990s. Globalization exported inflation to developing nations. 2000s. Low rates fueled housing bubbles that burst spectacularly. 2008. The solution to a credit crisis was creating more credit. 2020. The largest money printing event in history normalized stimulus as a permanent policy. Each fix created a larger bubble. Each bubble created a deeper dependency. Each dependency pushed central banks further into the role of global puppeteers. It's no longer about economics. It's about influence. Because when you control the money supply, you control what people can buy, build, dream, and risk. And when every nation is buried in debt, central banks become the quiet arbiters of survival. Section 6. Modern parallels. The pattern repeats today. We see the same pattern everywhere. Japan, 30 years of money still trapped in stagnation. Europe, negative interest rates, money worth less than nothing. United States, over 80% of all dollars in circulation printed in the last decade. Emerging markets, collapsing currencies as they chase the US dollar's liquidity. Global inequality, wealth flooding to asset owners as printed money boosts markets. Not wages, it's not coincidence, it's structure. We have entered a world where money is not created based on productivity, but policy. Not created by workers, but by central bankers. Not created from effort, but from keystrokes. And the greatest paradox of all, the more money is printed, the more power concentrates at the top, while the average person feels poorer. Conclusion. 3 takeaways. 1. Money supply manipulation isn't accidental, it's systemic. A design choice that centralizes power while distributing risk to the public. 2. Every major modern crisis has been amplified, not solved, by money creation. The system survives by expanding and it cannot shrink without collapsing. 3. The real cost of unlimited money isn't inflation, it's dependence. When people rely on a system they do not control, they become controlled by it. Final warning: as nations push digital currencies, programmable money, and real-time tracking, the next evolution of money supply control may be total financial surveillance, a system where every transaction is monitored and every dollar you receive can be restricted. The past was about manipulation. The future may be about control. Call to action if you want more deep dives into the hidden mechanics of global finance, from debt cycles to central bank power structures. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next episode will expose another layer of the system, one most people will never see coming.